We have sad news in the world of acting. Um, Paul Reubens, who's best known for Pee Wee Herman, has died. Um, he was 70 years old. Um, Basically, he had a bout with cancer that he kept silent. Um, he was best known for Pee Wee Herman. He was best known for Pee Wee's Playhouse and Pee Wee's Big Adventure. That was the stuff that he was known for. Um, Paul Reubens had joined the Los Angeles troupe The Groundlings in the 1970s, and then started his career as an improvisational comedian and stage actor. I did love him in the movie Blow with Johnny Depp. That was a good movie. In 1982, Reubens began appearing in a show about a character he had been developing for years. The show was called The Pee Wee Herman Show, and it ran for 5 sold-out months. Shit. Okay. Now, HBO had bought the rights to the show. Eventually, the show was pulled after his little stunt of what happened. Um, and it was a very successful show on HBO. And he became an instant cult-like figure, and for the next decade, Reubens was completely committed to that character, doing all of his public appearances and interviews as Pee Wee. Now, his feature film, Pee Wee's Big Adventure, which came out in 1985, was directed by famous director Tim Burton himself, and it was a financial success. And it soon became an underground cult following. It gained an underground cult following. Its sequel, Big Top Pee Wee, which was released in 1988, didn't do as well as the first one. But between the years of 1986 and 1990, Reubens starred as Pee Wee in the CBS Saturday morning children's program Pee Wee's Playhouse. In 1991, he decided that he was going to take a sabbatical. So therefore, Reubens decided to take a sabbatical from playing the character Pee Wee. In July of 1991, everybody knows about this story, even I do too. In July of 1991, Paul Reubens was arrested for jacking off inside an adult theater in Sarasota, Florida. And the arrest set off a chain reaction of national media attention that basically tarnished his reputation as the character Pee Wee. For the next several years, he struggled to get any acting roles, but the arrest postponed Reubens' involvement in any major film projects until 1999, when he appeared in a few big-budget projects, which included Mystery Men 1999 and the movie Blow in 2001. And Blow is the one he did with Johnny Depp, and that was, like I said, a great movie about cocaine trafficking. Now, Reubens subsequently started giving interviews as himself rather than as Pee Wee. But he would follow up with other film roles and occasional acting roles. In 2006, going from 2006 up until 2013, he would make cameos in numerous projects such as Reno 911, which came out in 2006, the TV show 30 Rock, Pushing Daisies, Life During Wartime, The Blacklist, Accidental Love, and Mosaic. He also loaned his voice to the Disney XD TV to Tron Uprising, which was a TV show that ran for 2 years, and he voiced the character Pavel. There had been talks for years, and I don't know if they ever did it, but since the 1990s, Reubens had worked on 2 possible Pee Wee films. One, dark and adult, was dubbed The Pee Wee Herman Story. The other, a family-friendly epic adventure called Pee Wee's Playhouse, the movie. In 2010, he starred on Broadway in The Pee Wee Herman Show, but in 2016, Reubens co-wrote and starred in the Netflix original film called Pee Wee's Big Holiday, reprising his role as Pee Wee Herman. Now, Paul Reubens was born Paul Rubenfeld in Peekskill, New York, on August 27th of 1952. God, there's a picture of him when he was in high school back in 1970. It was a senior year, and he looks all nerdy and dorky. Oh wow, I didn't even know he was Jewish. And it says that his whole family was Jewish, and it says his whole and he grew up in a Jewish family in Sarasota, Florida. It says his mother's name was Judy, but doesn't okay, his mother Judy was a teacher, and his father Milton had owned a lamp store. Before he was at the time that he was born, his father had worked in as an automobile salesman before he became a lamp owner. And he had flown for Britain's Royal Air Force and for the U.S. Army Air Forces in World War II. Later, he became one of the founding pilots of the Israeli Air Force during the 1948 Arab-Israeli War. Basically, Paul Reubens was raised an Orthodox Jew. He was actually his father was anyway, but he was one of 5 Jewish pilots to fly against Arab forces in the smuggled fighter planes. Basically, Paul Reubens had 2 siblings. Um, his brother Luke was a dog trainer, and then he had a sister named Abby, who's an attorney and a board member for the American Civil Liberties Union of Tennessee. Now, Paul Reubens would spend much of his childhood in Oneonta. I'm not sure if I'm saying that right, New York. As a child, he basically his biggest things was that he liked to frequent the Ringling Brothers and Barnum and Bailey Circus stuff, and they were their winter headquarters were located in Sarasota, which is where he grew up at. Um, Now, the circus atmosphere sparked Paul Reubens' interest in entertainment and influenced his later work in life. He also loved watching reruns of I Love Lucy, which made him want to make people laugh. At the age of 5, Reubens asked his father to build him a stage where he and his siblings would act out plays. Now, Paul Reubens created the character Pee Wee Herman during the 1978 year. Um, Now, Reubens had auditioned to be on Saturday Night Live for the 1980 to 81 season, but Gilbert Gottfried, who was a close friend of the show's producer and had the same acting style as Reubens, got the job instead. Um, Now, Reubens was so pissed that he lost and so bitter that he decided he would borrow money and start his own show in Los Angeles using the character he had been developing during the last few years, the character Pee Wee Herman. Now, around this time, Paul Reubens had acquired a small group of followers, and Reubens took a show to the Roxy Theater, where the Pee Wee Herman show ran for 5 sellout months, doing midnight shows for adults and weekly matinees for children. And he moved into the mainstream when HBO decided to pick up the show in '81 as part of their series On Location. Now, Reubens had a small appearance as the character Pee Wee in the 1980 film Cheech and Chong's next movie, basically. He would also reprise the role in 1981 Cheech and Chong's Nice Dreams, and the end of the credits movie billed him as Hamburger Dude. Reubens' character had mainly positive reactions and quickly acquired a group of fans, despite the character being described as bizarre. Of course, some people just don't know how a certain character is going to go over until they actually see it. So for the next 10 years, he would play this character, which became basically an instant classic with everybody that knows it. Now, when it comes to his jacking off in the porno theater, it says in July of 1991, Reubens was arrested in Sarasota, Florida for masturbating while watching a film at an adult movie theater. Okay, this is one thing I always wondered. Okay, they tell you could. Okay, they got porn. They do got theaters that showed just strictly porn and nothing else. So if I find a porno theater and I'm gonna go in one, they're gonna tell me I could watch porn, but I can't masturbate while watching the porno. You know damn well people are gonna be masturbating while watching these fucking pornos in the porno theater. Hell, I got a hand job in a movie theater before, so yeah. So I'm pretty good on that one. So back in 1991, Reubens was arrested in Sarasota, Florida for jacking off while watching a film at an adult movie theater. But during an unexpected police inspection, a detective had arrested Reubens along with 3 other people as he was preparing to leave. When the detectives examined Pee Wee Herman's driver's license, Reubens told them that he was Pee Wee Herman and offered to perform a children's benefit for the sheriff's office to take care of this. The next day, after a reporter recognized Reubens' name, Reubens' attorney extended the same offer to the Sarasota Herald Tribune in exchange for withholding that story. Back in 1971, when Reubens was 19, Reubens had been arrested in the same county for loitering and prowling near an adult theater. Those charges had back then had been dropped. His second arrest occurred in 1983 when Paul Reubens was arrested, was placed on 2 years probation for possession of marijuana, although education was withheld. On the night of the arrest, Reubens traveled to Nashville, where his sister, who was a lawyer, lived, and then he went to New Jersey, where he stayed for the following months at his friend Doris Duke's estate. Now, the 1991 arrest was widely covered, and Reubens and his character both became the subject of ridicule, meaning that basically his character was tarnished. And because of this arrest, Toys R Us, who had carried the Pee Wee Herman toys, they basically removed it from the store, so as to not be associated with Pee Wee for this arrest. Due to Paul Reubens' arrest, Pee Wee's Playhouse had been pulled. And so on November 7th of 1991, he pleaded not guilty. The plea avoided a charge of Reubens' record, but obligated him to 75 hours of community service. As part of his service, he created, produced, and financed 2 anti-drug public service announcements to make a little extra money. Now, despite the negative publicity, many artists who knew Paul Reubens, like such as Cyndi Lauper, Annette Funicello, Zaza Gabor, and Valeria Golino had voiced their support of him. And even Bill Cosby defended Reubens, saying that whatever Paul Reubens had done, this is being blown all out of proportion. Others who knew Reubens, such as Pee Wee's Playhouse production designer Gary Panther, Epitha Merkerson, and Big Top Pee Wee director Randall Kleiser also spoke and gave their support. And now Paul Reubens fans organized rallies in support of him after CBS canceled the reruns picketing in Los Angeles, New York, and San Francisco. Now the television news magazine A Current Affair received tens of thousands of responses to a Pee Wee telephone survey in which callers supported Reubens by a 9-to-1 ratio. Now, like I said, he did have a big following with all these TV shows. And for a while, he would not offer any interviews or appear on any talk shows, but he did appear as Pee Wee at the 1991 MTV Video Music Awards on September 5th, asking the audience, "Have you heard any jokes lately?" And he did receive a standing ovation for that comeback. Now, after his arrest, he did keep a low profile, but he did have a small part in the 1992 Buffy the Vampire Slayer movie and Tim Burton's Batman Returns, and Paul Reubens portrayed the Penguin's father, and he did appear in the 1996 movie Matilda and Dunstan Checks In. In 1993, he voiced the character Locke in another one of Tim Burton's productions, The Nightmare Before Christmas. He also had a role on Murphy Brown, which is a TV show I'd never even seen. Now, in 1992, not 1992, 2002. Sorry, I'm 10 years off. Back in November of 2002, while filming David LaPacelle's video for Elton John's "This Train Don't Stop There No More," don't stop there anymore, Reubens learned that police were at his home with a search warrant, which they were acting on a tip from a witness in the pornography case against actor Jeffrey Jones, finding among other 70,000 items of kitsch memorabilia, two videotapes that were grainy, and dozens of photographs that the city attorney's office characterized as a collection of child pornography. Now, Kelly Bush, Reubens' personal representative at the time, said that the description of the items was inaccurate, and claimed that the objects were Rob Lowe's sex videotape and a few 30 to 100-year-old kitsch collectible images. Now, Reubens did turn himself into the police, which you can always do. he was trying to get his show, the Pee Wee Herman show, back underway. I don't know if he ever did. Or he was doing like basically the stage play ones and not the ones on that were on HBO before. And basically when he played the character Pee Wee, he was selective on how he wanted to perform that character. Of course, he died at Cedars Sinai Medical Center back in Los Angeles on July 30th of 2023 at the age of 70. He was diagnosed with the disease 6 years ago, but of course, he never revealed it to the public. You know how some people are. Basically, they want to keep it private, and then you don't know that they die of cancer until the day that it happens. Like Chadwick Boseman died of cancer, and he was diagnosed with it 4 years before he died, and nobody knew about it until the day he died. Same thing with Pee Wee Herman. Nobody knew about him battling cancer for 6 years, and then all of a sudden it takes his life. But if you like the video, you can give the video a like and subscribe to my channel, RBW King. You can also hit the notification bell so that you'll be notified when a new video comes out. You can also leave a comment. Let me know what you think. And if you want to support my work even further, you can donate to my Patreon link, which you can find in the About section of YouTube. And for just a little, a few bucks a video or a month, your donation can help go a long way, and thanks for listening.